This is Mrs. Wainwright's math class, chapters 6, 7, and 8, Pkt F, lesson 6, divide fractions and mixed numbers by whole numbers. The learning target for today: by the end of today's lesson, you should confidently be able to say, I can divide fractions and mixed numbers by whole numbers. These are some notes for this lesson. When dividing a fraction and a whole number, change the whole number into a fraction first. Or when dividing a mixed number and a whole number, change the mixed number into an improper fraction and change the whole number into a fraction first. So let's take a look at example number 1. Eric has 6 bags of pennies. He gives 2/5 of a bag to each friend. How many friends can he give pennies to? Anytime we have a word problem, the first thing we do is focus in on what they're asking us for. They want to know how many friends he can give pennies to. The next thing I'm going to need to focus on is what I already know. Well, I know that he has 6 bags of pennies, so that's what he's going to start with. I know that with those 6 bags of pennies, he is going to give 2/5 of a bag to each friend. Notice it says each, and remember that each means it's either going to be a multiplication problem or a division problem. Let's figure out what type of problem it will be. Let's go back and look at the information we know. Eric has 6 bags of pennies. That's the total amount of pennies that he has. Then he's going to give 2/5 of a bag to each friend. So he's breaking that total up into smaller equal groups, 2/5 for each group. That tells me right away that this is going to be a division problem. So we take our total, which is 6, divided by the group size, which is 2/5. Let's move to the next page to solve that problem. So 6 divided by 2/5. 6 is a whole number, 2/5 is a fraction, and I know my note from the lesson told me something about this. So let's go look back at that note. My first note right here says when dividing a fraction and a whole number, that's what I have. 6 is my whole number, 2/5 is my fraction. Change the whole number into a fraction first. So I need to change my whole number into a fraction. Okay, so how do I change a whole number into a fraction? That's simple. I put it over 1, because 6 over the 1 is the same thing as 6. So now I have the problem 6 over 1 divided by 2/5. Okay, I know how to do a division problem like that. When I see a division problem with fractions, I think, oh, I am going fishing today. When I go fishing, I'm going to catch my fish, so I draw him. I'm going to keep the body to change it into my dinner, and I'm going to flip that tail that I don't want to eat back into the water. So let's go ahead and follow that strategy for this problem right here. Keep 6 over 1, change division to multiplication, flip 2 over 5 into 5 over 2. So now I have this division problem right here, which is 6 over 1 times 5 over 2. All right, we know how to solve that. To solve a multiplication problem with fractions, remember I use that x11 strategy. So the first factors in my x are my 6 and my 2. I'll have to find the GCF of 6 and 2. The factors of 6 are 1 and 6, 2 and 3, and that's it. The factors of 2 are 1 and 2, and I see that there is a 2 in common here, so I'm going to divide both of these numbers by 2. 2 divided by 2 equals 1. 6 divided by 2 equals 3. So I finished the orange portion of my x. Let's move to the green portion of my x. My green portion of my x is the 5 and a 1. I see a 1, therefore I'm done. Now I will move to my brown portion of my 11 strategy. That's right over here. That's going to be my 3 and my 1. There's a 1, so I'm done. And now I'm up to the purple portion of my 11. For my x11 strategies, I see a 5 and a 1. Again, there's a 1, so I'm done. So let's rewrite these fractions. I have 3 over 1 times 5 over 1, and I am ready to go ahead and multiply. So I say numerator times numerator, 3 times 5 equals 15. Then I say denominator times denominator, 1 times 1 equals 1. I have 15 over 1, and I know that's the same thing as 15. My answer is 15. Let's go back and put that into my original problem. We were talking about Eric, and the question says, how many friends can he give pennies to? So the answer will be Eric can give pennies to 15. What's my unit? How many friends? Yes, my unit is friends. 15 friends. And that's my final answer. Please stop the video and complete worksheet number 1 right now. Let's take a look at example number 2. Victoria has 4/6 of a pepperoni pizza in her refrigerator. Her family of 6 wants to share it equally. How much of the pepperoni pizza does each person get? Well, let's see what it's asking me. It wants to know how much of the pepperoni pizza each person gets. And let's think about this. Some girl named Victoria, she opens her refrigerator and she has some pizza in there. It's not the whole pizza, it's just some leftover pizza. It's part of the pizza, 4/6 of it. There are 6 people in her family and they all want to share those leftovers. How much of that leftover pizza is each person going to get? Okay, well, we know that each means either multiplication or division. Let's figure out which one it means in this problem. Victoria has 4/6 of the pizza in her refrigerator. Her family of 6 wants to share it equally. So they're going to take it and share it equally. That's important. Well, 4/6 is the total amount of pizza Victoria has. So I have a total. She wants to share it with all 6 people in the family, which means we need to take that pizza and break it into 6 smaller equal groups. We have a total, we're breaking them into smaller groups. That tells us right away this is going to be a division problem. When we do division, we always start with the total, which is 4/6. I know that that may seem weird because it's a smaller number, but it doesn't matter. We always start with the total and divide it by either the amount in each group or the number of groups. In this case, it will be the number of groups, right? We have 4/6 of a pizza. We're dividing it into 6 smaller groups. Let's move to the next page to solve this problem. And my note at the beginning of this lesson said if you're dividing a fraction and a whole number, you need to change the whole number into a fraction. So I will change 6 to 6 over 1 because any whole number over 1 equals itself. Now I have fraction divided by fraction, and of course I know how to solve this. Well, I'm dividing fractions. That means I'm going fishing tonight. When I go fishing, I will keep the main part of the body to change it into my dinner, and then I will flip my tail into the ocean. Keep, change, flip. Let's go ahead and do that. Keep my 4/6. Change my division to multiplication. Flip 6 over 1 to 1 over 6. So now I have this nice multiplication problem, 4/6 times 1/6. And we know when we multiply fractions, we're going to follow our x11 strategy. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Let's do the orange part of my x, which is my 4 and my 6. Find my GCF. Factors of 4 are 1 and 4, 2 and 2, so I'm done. Factors of 6 are 1 and 6, 2 and 3. That's it, I'm done. So let's see, I don't see a 4, but I do see a 2. Therefore, I need to divide both of these numbers by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now I'll move to the green part of my x, which is this way right here. I have a 1 and a 6. When there's a 1, I'm done. So I'm done with the green portion. Now I'll move to the brown portion of the 11. I'm going to do the factors of 2, and I already have the factors of 6. Factors of 2 are 1 and 2. And yes, there is a 2 in both of these. Therefore, I need to divide both of these by 2. A little squishy, but I'm going to try and fit it in. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I'm done with the brown portion of my x11 strategy. And finally, I move to the purple portion of my 11, which is my 1 and my 3. There's a 1, so I'm done. I'm going to rewrite this fraction so it's nice and neat and I can read it. I have 1 over 3 times 1 over 3. Again, we know that I'm going to do numerator times numerator, so I have 1 times 1 equals 1. And I'm going to say denominator times denominator, 3 times 3 equals 9. Is 1/9 a proper fraction? Will it work in a chicken fight? Yes, it will. Perfect. So my final answer is 1/9. Let's go back and put that in my original problem. So the question asked, how much of the pepperoni pizza does each person get? My answer will be, each person gets 1/9 of the leftover pepperoni pizza. And that's my final answer. Please stop the video and complete worksheet number 2 right now. So let's take a look at example number 3. I have 6 divided by 2 2/5. Okay, that 6 is a whole number, 2 2/5 is a mixed number, and I know my note said something about that, so I'm going to go back and look at that note. And here's my note right down here. When dividing a mixed number and a whole number, change the mixed number into an improper fraction and change the whole number into a fraction. So that's what I have to do. So my first number that I see is 6. That's my whole number. Easy to make a whole number into a fraction. I simply put it over 1. My next number, 2 2/5, I know that's a mixed number. So I'm going to change that to an improper fraction. C for change. I learned how to add before I learned how to multiply. 5 times 2 equals 10. 10 plus 2 equals 12. That's my new numerator. My denominator stays the same. I'll move down my 6 over 1 and my division sign. This is now a simple division of fractions problem, and I know when I divide fractions, I am going to go fishing. I catch a fish, so I'll draw it. When I catch it, I'm going to keep the body to change it into my dinner, and I'll flip the yucky tail back into the water. Keep 6 over 1, change division to multiplication, and flip 12 over 5 into 5 over 12. So now I'm going to look at this simple multiplication problem. I'm going to move to the next page so I have plenty of room to solve it. And once again, multiplying fractions, I use my x11 strategy. Okay, so the first part will be the orange part of my x, 6 and 12. Let's find the GCF of both 6 and 12. 1 and 6, 2 and 3, that's it. 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, that's it. I see a 6 and a 6, that's my GCF. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both of them by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 12 divided by 6 is 2. I'm done with the orange portion. Now I'll look at the green portion, which is my 5 and 1. When there's a 1, I'm done. So I'm ready to move on to the brown portion of my 11. See a 1 and 1, that means I'm done. On the purple portion, I see a 5 and a 2. So let me go ahead and find the factors of 5 and 2. Factors of 5 are 1 and 5. That's it. Factors of 2 are 1 and 2. 5 and 2 are both prime numbers. Okay, so the GCF is 1. When the GCF is 1, my fraction is done. So I'm going to rewrite what I have. I have 1 over 1 times 5 over 2, and I'm going to go ahead and multiply. So my numerator times numerator, 1 times 5 is 5. My denominator times denominator, 1 times 2 is 2. Is that a proper fraction? Will it work in a chicken fight? No, it will not. What's going to happen? Boom, that 5 is going to drop right down into that division box pool. So let's go ahead and divide. 2 goes into 5 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. Subtract 5 minus 4 is 1. Compare 1 is less than 2. There's nothing to bring down, so I'm going to write my remainder as a fraction. My remainder of 1 becomes my numerator. My divisor of 2 becomes my denominator, and I have 2 and 1/2. Go back to my original problem and plug my answer in, 2 and 1/2. So 6 divided by 2 2/5 equals 2 and 1/2. Please stop the video and complete worksheet number 3 right now. So let's review. When dividing fractions, if we have a whole number, we need to change the whole number into a fraction first, or if we have a mixed number, we need to change the mixed number to an improper fraction. Once we do that and we have a fraction by fraction division problem, then we divide using our keep, change, flip strategy. We keep the first fraction, change division to multiplication, and flip the second fraction. Once it's turned into that multiplication problem, We cross-cancel using the X11 strategy. Once we've fully cross-canceled, rewrite your fractions and go ahead and multiply. Numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. If it's an improper fraction, we have to drop it down into the division box pool and divide, which will get us our final answer. Hopefully by now you can confidently say, I can divide fractions and mixed numbers by whole numbers. We'll continue practicing in class. As always, any questions or concerns, please see a teacher. Good luck with this lesson.